those people who just like are not so sure and they're trying real hard. I love those people because they're at this point where they want to learn more. They know that they don't know. They're trying to make me think that they know more than they do. But it's at that point when you let your guard down and you let people slip up and let them know that it's okay. And that's how the needle changes. So working.
You're listening to Queer Travel Chat by Two Bad Tourists. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Queer Travel Chat. My name is Austin. I am one half of the blogger duo Two Bad Tourists, and finally joining me back in the podcast studio is David.
Yeah, we're here in person again. Well, video for them and audio, but I'm here in person with you.
Yeah, super excited.
So it's been a while.
Yeah, it has. So we're excited to be talking to Z today, who is our guest. Z Donnya Piggott, who goes by Z, is a person with many accomplishments and an extensive resume. So we're super happy to talk to them about the podcast today and learn a little bit about their business.
We're going to talk to them about the podcast?
Yeah, not about the podcast, about their business and all the cool stuff that they've done over the years. So anyway, Z is the founder of Pink Coconuts.
Wait, your elbow's in my screen.
Oh. We're super professional here on this podcast, right, David? All right. So Z is the co-founder of Pink Coconuts, an online resource where you can find queer inclusive hotels and accommodations in the Caribbean and Sub-Saharan Africa, as well as travel packages and events for LGBTQ plus travelers.
And as if that wasn't enough, Z also is a recipient of the prestigious Queen's Young Leader Award by Queen Elizabeth II at Buckingham Palace. They are the co-founder of Be Glad, an LGBTQ organization focused on advancing the social and political and economic environment for LGBTQ people in Barbados. They also did a TEDx Bridgetown talk on institutional homophobia as a form of resistance. So he makes us wonder what we could accomplish if we actually put down our glasses of wine and maybe turned off the TV. They do a lot. Maybe we should.
Listen, I've never claimed to be an advocate.
It really makes me feel like we do a lot more, but you know what? We'll never know because wine is so good and I have so many shows to catch up on.
All right, David, listen, wait. Before we get into the interview, it's actually been a while since you and I have sat here and recorded a podcast together. The last one we recorded, I think it was in February, but you were in the States. So
yeah, we recorded too while I was in the States, right?
Yeah.
So this is our first one that we're actually recording together this year in 2024, right? So what have we been up to? Well, I'm finally back from the States. Been back here for 6 weeks and I'm so glad to be happy and happy to be back in Madrid, where we live. It's been 2 months away is a long time to be away from your home. So also high travel season. I can't talk. High travel season is upon us. So I'm just doing a lot of tours right now. If people recall, I'm a food and history tour guide as well here in Madrid. So we've got a lot of bookings coming in. So very excited to be getting back into the swing of things with that. If you want to take a tour, I've mentioned before, I work with Devour. They've got tours all over Europe and in a couple cities in the US as well. And you can use my personal discount code, DavidB10, to get 10% off. And if you did one here in Madrid, who knows, I could be your guide. But we also have our own LGBTQ
plug our own tour.
Tapas tour that we just launched in January.
Not topless.
People always think I say topless. That we can take you to the bar for that as well.
Yeah, that's a different tour.
But we just launched that, and as well as our nightlife tours that we do in Chueca, which is the gay neighborhood of Madrid. So if you're in the city, definitely come check them out. Other things that we were up to, we went to Seville for a couple of days and did some food tours there and some walking tours of the city. Love Seville. We saw a flamenco show. It was so great. We hadn't been there in like 6 or 7 years, right?
Yeah, and for those of you not familiar, Seville's the capital of the region of Andalusia, which is like the southernmost part of Spain.
Seville's the capital of Andalusia?
Yeah, and it's just like a very culture. Like when you think of like typical Spanish culture, like Sevilla like embodies that kind of culture, like flamenco and just all the things that when you think of Spain, it's a lot of it has to do with Andalusia.
So that's what has been going on the past couple of months. You haven't been traveling though as much lately.
I haven't. So yeah, normally, I have a trip almost every month or more, but for the past 6 to 8 weeks, I've been here. So the big news for me is that my boyfriend just moved here from Barcelona. Moved into the apartment here.
Finally, after years.
5 years of a long distance relationship. So if you're in a long distance relationship, there's hope. Or ask me in a year from now.
Well, he just moved in. Yeah, let's see. Let's see how you guys do. But
right. All right.
But that's exciting. Very good news for you.
Yeah, well, let's get into it. So if you like the show, please be sure to subscribe to it on Spotify, Apple, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please be sure to leave a 5-star review if you enjoy our episodes. We really rely on those to get the reach out. And if you're watching on any of social media platforms, the video version, please feel free to leave a comment or share the episode with your friends. And as always, you can follow us on social media. We're always at Two Bad Tourists. Of course, we're going to say one quick thing before we get into the interview. As always,
more shameless plugs.
Yes, we want to say a few words from our sponsors. And as typical, I did not sell a sponsorship spot. So we are going to hijack the sponsorship spot and promote our own stuff. So we want to talk a little bit about our Madrid gay group trip, which is coming up in September, the 13th through 19th of this year. So we have 6 days. It's 4 days in Madrid and then a day in Toledo and a day in Segovia, which are 2 small medieval towns just outside of Madrid, about an hour away. So we usually have a group of about maybe 12 to 15 people join us. So please visit our website if you want to learn more about that trip. And if you're a solo traveler, we have a special for, we're not charging any single supplements if you book before the end of the month in April. So
yeah, that's exciting. This is our 2nd year that we're going to be doing it. And as we were talking about doing the tours around Madrid and things, those of course are going to be included. We're going to do a Tapas tour as well. We're going to do a nightlife tour in addition to the day trip. So hope to see you in September.
All right, well, let's get into it. We're going to bring Z on to the video chat here in the podcast. Z, welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey Z, nice to talk to you.
Yeah.
Good to meet you both.
So you are currently in New York?
Yeah, I'm back and forth between New York and Barbados. Found a love here in New York, so you know how that goes.
Oh, that changes my whole angle for that. I want to know.
Apology. Yeah, this is not a travel podcast anymore.
First of all. So is it like half and half? Is that how you split your time?
Yeah, well, I'm trying. Yeah, I'm trying to split my time as much, but I spend like copious amount of time with her. So.
Well, let's get started. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Okay, so I'm Z, and I'm the founder of Pink Coconuts, which is a platform with a mission on creating inclusive societies through travel and tourism. I'm also an LGBT advocate, but I think I've been kind of questioning that. I mean, I'm always an LGBT advocate, but I think I do it differently this time around. I've always been working on the political side of things for about 8 years, and then I started to recognize the economic case and how it can really move things around in the economy and how that can be the catalyst for change. So I'm still an LGBT advocate, but I think I do it a lot differently, and I focus wholly on queer joy and travel and the rest.
I really like that.
Yeah,
I like that because I feel like, I mean, we've had an LGBT gay business for more than a decade, but I've never considered myself an advocate or like an active person sort of pushing for LGBT rights. But I just feel like just being present and creating like safe spaces and queer opportunities and being visible like across the internet and events and stuff is at least a step in the right direction. And people do things different ways, right?
Absolutely. It doesn't have to look one way.
Yeah, I love that. Well, so, I mean, was there any other reason that motivated you specifically to work in travel? Because you could have done queer-specific things, but that were in other segments of the different industries.
Yeah, well, I'm from Barbados. I'm from the Caribbean. So the Caribbean is like one of the most dependent regions on tourism. So Pink Coconuts actually came out of a project of Be Glad. So Be Glad was the organization that I founded in Barbados. It's an LGBT advocacy organization. And we did the Pink Coconuts project, which brought together hoteliers so that they could be better to their LGBT employees, but also to recognize there are some benefits to having good policy and being good to the local community, because this LGBT market is massive. So it was the first time I really started to really think about and, liaise with all these hoteliers in the region about what it can look like and the benefits to them. And like my work was in human rights a lot. And when I started to make the economic and the business argument, everything changed. Like
Yeah.
people started to listen in a different way. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what have I been doing for the last 8 years? You've been like, oh, discrimination is hurting us. And we're going on and on. And that work is also very draining too. But it's good work. But I found so much joy in being strategic about the advocacy. And travel is so fun, you know? So it was a way for me to one, heal, because advocacy in the region is rough, you know?
Yeah. Imagine.
And still do something that I enjoy, focus on queer joy. So then the images were now of queer people having fun and, you know, being employed and these kind of things. So it kind of changed the angle. And then people were listening a lot more. So it's something that I kind of doubled down on.
Yeah,
So
I'm not surprised at all that people will listen to the financial argument.
You have to be strategic.
Your same goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about the approach.
A lot more fun, a lot less stress, and especially just like, you know, when you're talking to the people in tourism, being able to have a much easier argument for them to listen to your pitch, right? I like the way that you put that.
Well, you mentioned you're from Barbados. Could you tell us a little bit more about your upbringing and what it was like growing up queer there, and kind of how that impacted your current trajectory?
Oh, I mean,
in a short, brief answer.
Please.
Let's
keep it brief. How do I keep this brief though?
No, I'm joking. I meant it's a heavy question. So
yeah. I mean, it was rough, to be honest. It was a tough time. I had a good core of friends though, that kind of helped me through. And I think when I started to get more political, which was at University of the West Indies, where we put on this panel discussion about LGBT rights. And, you know, like after these discussions, these in-person discussions, you know, people would gather at the end and talk about, you know, but then we realized that all the queer people were kind of like coming together. So then from there started an LGBT organization out of the university. It was called Queers at UWE Cave Hill. And I think I'm like, could you give me the question again? Because I can get into this and I'm not sure if I'm answering the question one more time.
Yeah, just like what it was like your upbringing, and also, especially being a queer person in Barbados. Because I mean,
overall,
honestly,
it was tough. It was tough because it was one thing to be a queer person in Barbados, but it's also another thing to be a public advocate. Those are two completely different things. I could be, you know, within my friends, and I might have my challenges with my parents, which I did. I had really challenged a large set of challenges with my parents. But when I became public, oh, that went up a notch, like a big notch. And my parents were, you know, at first they were embarrassed, and it was just a really tough thing. And then when I won the Queen's Award, it became even a national thing. So then it was this confusing thing where some people were annoyed, but then other people were like, "Congratulations!"
Something amazing for some people, and something terrible for.
Yeah, my mother was really confused because she was like, people are telling me congratulations, but I've been on you about what is this thing that you're doing all your life, you know? And she's like, oh, so can I come to England with you? You know? So things started to like shift, and but eventually, you know, it got worse and then it got better. So
you mentioned forming a group when you were at university, and like kind of how the queer people kind of found each other. Were you out to each other at that point, or you just kind of, you know, noticed that you gravitated to those people?
Yeah, some people were out. I think some people just got introduced to other queer people there, and then the community formed. So yeah, and then we took it online, and then we would go to the beach, and we have these kind of community lines, and we had like a Facebook group back in that. We still have a Facebook group right now, I think. We had a Facebook group, and then we found a lot of Barbadians trying to join the group who were not part of the university. Yeah, so out of that came a lot of community for university students and Barbados alike.
Can you tell us a little bit about what the current laws are in Barbados and how they affect you know, like the LGBT community?
Yeah, sure. So, you know, I'm really proud of, I mean, we don't have like same-sex marriage or anything in Barbados, but I'm really proud of where we've come. So right now, Barbados doesn't have that anti-gay law that the majority of the Caribbean has anymore. So that's completely off the books. What we do have,
they like got rid of it.
Yeah, they got rid of it. Last year,
Oh,
June.
wow.
That's
Fantastic.
great.
Last year, June, interestingly. You know? Yeah. So that was really cool. Then and before that though, it was a policy that I worked on right before I left Be Glad and went straight into Pink Coconuts, and that is anti-discrimination protection in the workplace on the basis of sexual orientation. So that's something that the government actually put there and say, hey, we need to protect sexual orientation. Of course, we didn't get gender identity protected, which was, upsetting to the trans community. So I had to make a decision at that point. It was a little contentious of, are we gonna, get sexual orientation protected and not gender identity?
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
That's a similar story for a lot of queer communities around the world, when it's like, we want to stick with our trans brothers and sisters, but then also like trying to advance the cause at the same time. It's
right.
a difficult one.
It's like, we get something,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That was a tough one.
There's no great answer to that.
Yeah. Well, so, kind of diving a little bit more into travel, when exactly did you start traveling? Were you always traveling? And was there like a specific experience that made you notice the need for more resources for queer travelers? I
think when I was working very heavily in LGBT advocacy, people would reach out all the time because obviously it's Barbados, and then after the award from Queen Elizabeth, like a lot more people reached out, say, hey, I'd like to come to the Caribbean. Would you know where were the places in Tobago? Do you know where the places? So people would ask me all the time. I'm like, and then I also worked part-time at a destination management company. So while I was executive director, I was working part-time because funding was really tough. And then I realized like 5% of all of these, because they were like, it was incentive travel. So you'd see like insurance companies, sending their top whatever percentage to Barbados for vacation and that kind of thing. And I noticed that if there was a group of 100, at least about 5% were like queer couples, and they were coming still. And and I'm like, okay, so these people are still coming. How do we cater to them? And then I started to think, I'm having this organization that's struggling to get, funding. Travelers are still coming. People are asking, there's something here. And that's where I actually created Pink Coconuts while I was working at that place.
So in what year was that you started Pink Coconuts?
Well, I started to work on Pink Coconuts probably in 2018, 2017. At that company. And then I got a scholarship to study social entrepreneurship. They focus on building out Pink Coconuts in Boulder, in Boulder, Colorado. Funny story about that. I actually thought Boulder, Colorado was in Canada. So, so at this point in time, I was boycotting the United States because at that time there was the whole thing about police brutality. I'm not going to the United States. I will never go. This place is in Canada. Colorado because it's in Canada. So I go, and about 3 weeks before I have to sort out my flight and situation, I had an Airbnb guest, and they told me Colorado is not in Canada, and it was really embarrassing. But I had already accepted. So anyway, go off to Colorado thinking, okay, Colorado's 2% Black. My brain was just going what I'm gonna experience is gonna be so terrible. All this thing, it changes my entire life. I healed so much in those mountains, and it really, really made me think about how the perception of a place will make you think you should never go there.
Yeah.
Because I saw United States as this one place,
Yeah.
When there are different places within any given place that can be a haven for queer people or a haven for Black people or whatever, you identify with. And so that's that kind of solidified the idea behind Pink Coconuts, that even in a place like Barbados or even in a place like Colorado, for me as a Black person, there is this oasis, or in the United States rather, there is this oasis for any group of people but you just need to know what it is.
Yeah. And that's why it's great for people to create those resources, right? So when you go on Google and you're like, where can I find XYZ community? People like us, created people like you and the Caribbean and stuff that we do. So
well,
that
and
people
it's
can
great. I
find
mean,
it.
that really highlights the importance of travel for everyone, is how much it changes your perspective, and how,
Yeah.
you know, you have one assumption, it can pretty much, you know, completely blow your mind what your experience is like. That's great for any traveler, let alone, you know, queer travelers. But of course, we have this extra layer that we have to be safe while traveling.
So
Yeah.
you talked about how you like kind of came up with the idea behind Pea Coconuts, right? Based on trying to make the connection between advocacy, but then seeing people coming already that were, you know, gay couples. Like, did you, from where you started to where you're at today, like what has kind of changed in sort of the products and services or information that you provided over that time?
Yeah, I think, you know, just working on pink coconuts, I had a vision for it, but I think I had to stay true to the mission of it while trying to navigate these different business models and these different ways of presenting the company. What I've discovered is that the Caribbean, regardless, it has a reputation problem.
Yeah.
And that's really external, but it also has a problem where people just don't understand. So these are two prone kind of issues that we need to address at the same time. I think the reputation problem can can do better with some marketing, can be better with some marketing. But my problem with pink coconuts is that I can't safely say, hey, come to Jamaica or come to Barbados and you guarantee a wonderful, you know, and
Right.
that's been one of the challenges. I don't want to like guarantee that. So it's about managing expectations of the traveler. Connecting them with community is really, really important because that changes, you know, your experience once you're able to connect and going underground to have these events. And once you are in the events, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, yeah.
But managing expectations is really, really important.
Yeah, which makes sense. And as long as you do, though, I mean, I, you know, find queer travelers to be quite adventurous, and we know,
Exactly.
you know, for the most part, what we're getting into. Some people are more down than others to go into more adventurous situations, but as long as they know what they're signing up for, I agree. Yeah, that's a good move.
I remember when you and I had a video call a few months ago, and I was checking your website beforehand, and I saw that you had like, it was some either trips or you're promoting like hotels in Ghana. And it was funny because David and I spent 10 years ago a month in Ghana, and we like had to pretend that we were friends, and people always thought we were brothers. And I think we made some stupid story that I like dated his sister or whatever. It was crazy.
Oh man,
That's a good story though.
Yeah, and so like if they ever asked me, like I knew his sister so well that I could just easily like say it, and then
yeah,
But the thing is, we made up this whole story, but we never really had to like say the lie like in that depth, right? People don't
yeah.
they don't keep asking like when you know about your story. But anyways, but yeah, we were adventurous, and it was like a very like what's the word, like I don't know, it just made an impact on me, right? Like just getting to know the local communities and the people there. It was really interesting. It was like no gay trip by any means. We're certainly adventurous.
Well, that's why it's great to have companies though, like yours, like Pink Coconuts, that lets people have, you know where they can be in a safe group and at least have resources if anything were going to happen.
Exactly.
I mean, of course, you can't guarantee anything 100%, but you know, knowing that you're working with a great company is going to make you feel safer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I had a similar experience in Ghana too, where I was with my partner at the time, and you know we were trying to figure out whether we should go to the immigration desk together or not. You know, because you know I'm gender non-conforming, so it's like, you know,
couples would normally go together with no problem, but if you're a couple,
yeah,
you have to like think about it a lot.
Yeah,
but it
in
was
the end, did you go together or?
Yeah, we went together. We got some weird questions, but he was like annoyed, and he was like, "Okay, go, just go." He knew. And then it was interesting because we got pulled back for like, you know, I think yellow fever or something like that, and we ended up like just being honest with the woman who was in the health inspection part, and she went on about having one experience with a woman, and it was really interesting. And she wanted to take us out, and and it was interesting because it was like, this is our first like hour in Ghana, and it's, well, we're already being hit on. I'm like, I like this.
Coming out of the woodwork.
Oh my God. See, this is why we need to travel even to places that maybe,
Yeah.
give us a little bit of
important.
might scare us a little bit, but
Yeah. That's
Well,
the adventure.
So part of my online sleuthing to do research about pink coconuts, I think I found there's a co-founder as well. Is that true?
Yeah. So that co-founder was the co-founder that we went to Ghana, and she passed away.
Oh, I'm so
away.
sorry
I'm so
to hear
sorry.
that.
Yeah.
So this is with the immigration desk story that you were just saying?
Yeah.
I see.
We went to Ghana. We spent 2 months in Ghana. We spent time in Kenya, in Tanzania. This was during the pandemic.
Mhm.
So Pink Coconuts, we launched 2 weeks before the pandemic. We launched a full site, ready to go.
Great time to do a travel company.
I know, right? And so we just had some funding there, and there was nothing we could do. So we just traveled, and we met all these people, and we, talked to hoteliers because they had time to listen to us. And we just managed to pull together a lot of folks who own hotels or properties in these spaces: Tanzania, Kenya, Zanzibar, and Ghana.
Yeah, great destinations.
So I'm curious. So imagine I'm a traveler. I stumble upon your website because you did some amazing marketing that I was attracted. How am I going to use your business and your site and your resources to actually go to one of these destinations? How does that?
What are the specific resources?
How does that all work?
Well, it would show you some hotels, what you can actually select in that way. I think what we're working on now is more of a B2B play, because we recognize that on the destination side, folks need some work. So that's what we're working on these days. And once we are able to approve and work with those hoteliers and business owners and so on, then we put them on the site, because we have a supply problem. Because I can't, in good faith, put a hotel because one person is friendly, or they need the work, and that's the challenge with Pink Coconuts that we're still trying to solve. But I think we've got it with the B2B and a scalable model too, that I think that is very specific to the Caribbean and Sub-Saharan Africa, because there's a lot of challenges, with perception of LGBT and so on. So it's about putting it in a way that people understand that it's around how we welcome everybody. And I think if we're too LGBT specific in some areas, it can come into some trouble. So how do we work with hoteliers and people who work in the hotel industry to be welcoming to LGBT, but how do we welcome into locals as well? Because that's a challenge too. If you look at traveler or tourist, you get better treatment. So how do we integrate all of these groups that might have challenges, in the hotel and tourism industry in the Caribbean? And so far it's been working. You'll see it launch perhaps in about 3 weeks. We're ready to launch. But yeah, it will help with the supply.
It sounds all like a big undertaking, which is fantastic. Is this a one-person show, or do you have help?
Oh yeah, I have help. I have help from the partner in Ghana, actually, and Nigeria, and here in New York, and we're hiring another person in Barbados.
That's amazing.
Okay, so with all of your work in travel and also your activism, what are some key things that you've learned as you've worked in those spaces, and especially related to LGBT activism and travel overall?
One thing I've learned is how polarizing advocacy could be. It's either or. It's either you're a capitalist and you're greedy and you're doing all these fun things, or you're going to work hard for the people and charity. And it's this kind of, and I think personally I've felt like I left one part of the advocacy space and jumped into another. And I think I often have to explain my strategy overall to advocates who might be, doing things, in a more traditional way, which is still very important because LGBT people need those voices and you need to speak truth to power. But what I've learned is that it's so strategic to use these methods. I also think that travel changes changes perception just overall. Even my Colorado, Canada story, it changes the perception of what you thought of a place was. So I always encourage people to still like travel and move around, and that I don't want to get too the development space, but I really do feel economics is at the core of all of the isms, and that most situations are more classist than otherwise. I think classism is actually the sneaky, the sneaky bear that we're not really addressing, and we're going to call it all these other names and so on. But really and truly, it's about economics.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It opens the door.
I think that's a wonderful key thing to have learned and to mention with this particular question. And I totally understand, and it's great your ability to evolve within this activism space to kind of go from one end to another. I think is a good thing. It just means that you're open-minded and you're seeing the world for what it is, but also how you can continue to work for your own community in the best way possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Good for you.
So I want to know what do you love most about what you do? Because you talked about the part and the joy, and the travel business is like just less stressful, but like what do you love about it? What are some of your favorite things?
Some of my favorite things. I mean, obviously I love travel, but the truth is I like working with external partners. And I like working with people who get mixed up on the LBGT, those people who just like are not so sure and they're trying real hard. I love those people because they're at this point where they want to learn more. They know that they don't know. They're trying to make me think that they know more than they do. But it's at that point when you let your guard down and you let people slip up and let them know that it's okay. And that's how the needle changes. So working with, hoteliers or waitresses or people in, the front desk who are eager to learn, but they're not there yet, but they want to get there. And I did a lot of that in my work. Be glad because I would work with policemen and trade unions and teachers and that kind of thing. I mean, even religious people. I visited a lot of churches. And it was it could be nerve-wracking, but that's the adventure. So
I can tell from that answer that you're just like an advocate in disguise of like this business.
Yeah.
Because you're like still really doing the same thing, but you've like come up with this like marketing scheme that makes it look like you're, that's good.
I mean, we're still gonna bring some good business to the Caribbean. That's what we want. You want to bring the business to the Caribbean, but you got to be ready for the business. So it's a strategy.
Yeah.
What is the hardest part about what you do?
Honestly, I think I have lost a little, and I know it's a strategy, but I think the core advocacy community, I think somehow in my mind, I feel like that folks think that I've kind of left the space. I mean, I have, but that my values are misaligned. And again, it goes back to that polarization, whether it's either or. You're an advocate in this way, and so I think the hardest part is not knowing my place. Because I mean, you're seeing me as an advocate. They're seeing me, as hey, you're a capitalist now.
You abandoned us.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like I'm in this middle spot, like, like how people treat bisexuals.
Yeah.
I
mean, I think two things can be true at the same time, and I also think that there's enough space and enough work to be done for all of us, so we can tackle it at all angles and sides, and we don't have to be only one way, and we can do a little bit here and a little bit there and change our minds. I mean, I think that's all fine. And what I say goes because it's our podcast.
Yay! Thank
And by the way,
you.
like you put in your time. You did those 8
Yeah.
years or however many of the,
Thank
the
you.
harder political advocacy. So
I
you
appreciate
deserve-
that.
you deserve your time to change your direction. That's great.
On a lighter note than talking about travel, do you have a particular LGBTQ friendly travel destination that you really enjoy going to? You know, one where you don't have to put in all the work and you know, like, this is my safe place and I'm welcomed here and I enjoy going there? Or not?
Ooh, that's a really good question. You know, this is a boring one, but like where I am right now is New York.
Yeah.
Because New York has a way. I was telling my partner, New York has a way of just not giving a fuck about. So it's like you can absolutely be 100% yourself, and then you can also find your tribe. That's the other thing too. You can be like as out there as you can be, and you will still find your tribe in New York.
Yep.
So I
That's
think
amazing.
that's,
Yeah, that's kind of the answer I would have expected.
That's
And I mean,
really
it's nice to sometimes be a little bit in a queer bubble, you know,
Yeah. Oh.
not fighting the good fight. I get it.
Yeah. Although I like Jamaica too, and I know those two things are like chalk and cheese, but Jamaica and Kingston specifically is a beautiful and fun place for the queer community. And I know that I mean for people listening in, people will not think that, you know, Jamaica is the place, but Jamaica has a lot of queer community and it's really interesting. I just came from Jamaica just about 2 weeks ago, put on the inclusion and diversity in travel and tourism. And it was tough, but just to see community just moving around and doing their thing, they know how to navigate. So if you go, you need to stick to a local community and they'll just show you the ropes. But it's really a hidden gem, Jamaica. Barbados, of course, too. I can't not say Barbados because Barbados is very queer. It's very, very queer. Barbados is more comfortably queer.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, yeah, and these are places that you definitely should go, and just link with the queer community, and you'll have a blast. And those are I just think they're like hidden queer gems.
I love it.
I'm glad that you're sharing that information.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit, like, what do you see the future holding for yourself and your business?
I'm just leaning into, you know, working with hoteliers. That's really the future for me. I'm going to Barbados to, pull off a pilot. And it's just looking promising. I feel like I'm finally finding it because it's really about peeling the layers. You want to do this queer travel company, but you have a reputational problem that people don't understand, and then you peel it some more, and then you think at the core is working with the actual industry.
Yeah.
So so that's what I see for the next few years, and I'm just excited to unveil this project.
Excellent. Well, is there any question you wish we had asked you or something else you want to share before we wrap up?
I wish I'd prepared something for this.
You can also shamelessly plug anything you want.
Yeah.
This is your opportunity.
pinkcoconuts.com. That's what I can see. Just visit it. We're gonna be changing up some things soon. But you can still like shoot me a message at, you know, Donnya, DONNYA at pinkcoconuts.com. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what the next few weeks brings. And if you are interested in coming to Barbados, just please shoot me a message. Barbados is really the place to be. It's queer friendly, and we're really pushing the boundary. So
awesome. We're gonna put the links for sure in the show notes too, so people can have easy access to find Pink Coconuts and contact information.
Yeah, definitely. So we always like to end the interview with this question. So where are you traveling to next?
Barbados on Monday. I go to Barbados in 3 days.
Love it.
In 3 days you'll be there?
Yeah. I'll be back home, and I'm really excited. Although, you know, New York is getting warm again, but
you'll be back in New York too.
I'll be back in New York in the time.
Well.
I'm going back home.
Well, hopefully we'll get to see you in Barbados one day.
Yeah, please. Yeah, show you around.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for joining us, Z. We appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks
Thank you so much.
Nice chatting.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye. All right. Well, thanks to Z, of course, for joining us on the show. And thank you, everyone, if you're listening to the podcast or watching on video on social media. I'll let David do this part because I'm going to talk later.
Almost died. If you like the show, please subscribe to it on Spotify, Apple, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. And also be sure to leave us a 5-star review. It really helps us out if you enjoy the episodes. And if you're watching live on any social media platform, feel free to leave a comment or share what you'd like to see more of. We really do take those to heart. And maybe you'll get an episode topic going in a future one. You can always follow us on social media. We are at Two Bed Tourists. And what's going on next week?
So next week will be episode 4.
Well, not next week because we have been terrible about putting these out.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
Next
The next
episode.
Next
we do have a
episode.
plan. There's a plan.
Next episode, which should
Always.
be episode 4, is going to be on Miami, highlighting both our visit, but we're going to be interviewing someone. And if you listen to our last podcast, at the end of that episode, we also said this one would be Miami. So it's not, but so we just had some scheduling issues. But we are actually going to be interviewing Yessi Leon from Pandora Events. And she is the producer of a number of queer women's events in Miami and in Orlando, as well as St. Petersburg. So those include Aqua Girl, Girls in Wonderland, which happens at Orlando Gay Days at Disney, and Girls in Wonderland Beach. So we're super excited to talk to her about, kind of learn a little bit about the queer scene from her perspective. We'll talk a little bit about our Miami experience and, just to hear it from like a local and an LGBT business owner who works in the queer space.
Yeah, always better. Like, we
Florida.
can tell what it's like as visitors, but always great to hear that local perspective as well.
Yep. So that's it. So stay tuned until next episode. Until then, we will not be doing a podcast.
Bye.
Bye.